Okay, so yesterday we were studying about properties of charges. Okay, then how to charge any uncharged body. Two methods we have studied. The first one is charging by conduction. In conduction, the charged body is brought in contact with the uncharged body and the charges are shared. That is, the uncharged body will get the same kind of charge. Whereas in case of charging by induction, the charged body is not brought in contact with the uncharged body. It is just brought close to the uncharged body. And the uncharged body will get opposite kind of charge. Okay, so let's see one example of charging by induction. Let us take a metal rod which is rubbed with a silk cloth. Which charge does the glass rod get? It gets positive charge. Okay, now bring it close to a metallic sphere which is placed on an insulating stand. Why to place it on an insulating stand? Because whatever charge comes on this metallic sphere, that charge will be transferred into the earth. So that is why it has to be kept on the insulating stand. This stand is insulating stand. Okay, now what happens? There are few steps to proceed to charge this uncharged body. This is the uncharged metallic sphere which has to be charged. Okay, so when we bring it, we know that this metallic sphere is neutral. That is, it is having negative and positive charges. Negative charges shift close to this positively charged rod and the positive charges on the other side. Is it so? We know that unlike charges attract, so the negative charges on the metallic sphere will come close to this charged glass rod, positively charged glass rod, and the positive charges on the other side. This is the first step. Now in the second step, what is done? The metallic sphere is earthed. Earthed means from here a wire is connected to the ground. It's also called as grounding. The wire, a metallic wire, is buried inside the earth. This we call it as grounding, or this we call it as earthing. Okay, so what is done? Earthing is done. Now what happens to this positive charge? The earth has infinite potential. So the negative charges will travel through this metallic wire and will neutralize the positive charge. That is, this positive charge will be neutralized by the electrons which are traveling from the earth. Only the negative charge remains here. Why the negative charge remains here? Because it is being attracted by the positive charge. So what happens? This positive charge is neutralized. So this is the second step. In the second step, what is done? Earthing is done. Okay. Now in the third step, what is done? The earthing is removed. Earthing is removed. This is the third step. And in the fourth step, what is done? This charged metallic rod, the charged glass rod is removed. Now what happens? This negative charge, this gets uniformly distributed on the metallic sphere and the metallic sphere becomes negatively charged. So we have brought the positive charged glass rod in positive charged glass rod close to the metallic sphere and the metallic sphere obtains a negative charge. Such a method is called as charging by induction. Okay, these figures are there in the book. From there you can see it. Okay, so 4 steps are there. The first step, the charged glass rod is brought close to the metallic sphere which is placed on the insulating stand and the metallic sphere is earthed. So the positive charges which are on the other side, that will be neutralized. Next step, the earthing is removed. Next step, what is removed? The charged glass rod is removed. So that positive charge will be uniformly distributed on this metallic sphere. And this uncharged metallic sphere will become negatively charged. On bringing a positive charge glass rod close to this metallic sphere, the metallic sphere is getting a negative charge. And this method we call it as charging any uncharged body by the method of induction. Which method is this? Induction. Okay, next we'll study about a very, very important law, Coulomb's law. Okay, next is Coulomb's law, which was given by Coulomb. Okay, it states that the force of attraction or repulsion between any 2 point charges. Okay, there may be a force of attraction. When is the force between two charges attractive? When the charges are unlike charges. That is, one is positive and the other is negative charge. So the force between them will be attractive. And when is the force repulsive? When the charges are like charges. Like charges means similar charges. Both are positive or both are negative charges. So this force of attraction or repulsion between any 2 point charges, it is directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Let Q1 and Q2. These are the 2 point charges which are separated by r distance. So there will be a force of attraction or repulsion depending upon the nature of the charges. This force of attraction or repulsion is directly proportional to product of charges Q1 into Q2 and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. So F is proportional to Q1 into Q2 upon R square. On equating it, some constant of proportionality, let it is K Q1 Q2 upon R square, where this K is called as the constant of proportionality. And this constant of proportionality here is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. This is a Greek symbol, and in Greek this symbol is called as epsilon. What is it called? Like we have alpha, beta, gamma. The same way this symbol in Greek is called as epsilon. This 0, naught. So this we call it as epsilon naught. So the constant of proportionality here is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is called as the permittivity of free space. It is called as permittivity of free space. That is, how many electric field lines is it permitting? Permittivity of free space. Now, free space here means the charges are placed in air or vacuum. Okay, so vacuum is called as the free space. That is, the charges are placed in air or vacuum. Then the force will be given by K Q1 Q2 upon R square, where K is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. And this epsilon naught is called as the permittivity of free space. That is, the charges are placed in free space. So what do you get? Coulomb's law can be written as F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square. This is the Coulomb's law. Okay, so note it down in the same manner. Write down the force between 2 point charges. The force between 2 point charges, TWO2 point POINT, 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. And inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Write down this force acts along the line joining the two charges. This force acts, ACTS acts along the line joining the two charges. Okay, so you can make this figure. Q1, Q2 are the two charges separated by r distance. And then what you have written, write it mathematically. F is proportional to Q1 into Q2 upon r square, equating whenever we remove the proportionality sign, a constant of proportionality comes. K is the constant of proportionality, and here K, this constant of proportionality, is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. This symbol is called as epsilon naught, where epsilon naught here is called as the permittivity of free space. Permittivity of free space. This epsilon naught, we call it as permittivity of free space. So what do you get? Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law is mathematically, how can you write down? F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon r square. This is the Coulomb's law. Okay, and the charges are placed in free space. Free space means vacuum or air. F is equal to 1 upon the same thing I have written here. F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon r square. Okay, now here ask me. Okay, the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught in SI units. Okay, we are talking in SI units. Unit will come it later on. Its value is 9 into 10 raised to the power 9. Its value is 9 into 10 raised to the power 9 in SI units. Now tell me its SI unit. What will be its SI unit?
Newton meter square per coulomb square.
Yes, good. Those who are sitting in front don't know anything. From there they are speaking. What will be its unit? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is equal to F into r square upon Q1 into Q2. What's the unit of force? Newton into r square. R is what? Some distance. Meter into meter, meter square upon Q1 into Q2. Charge into charge, Coulomb square. So its value is 9 into 10 raised to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Okay, the value of constant of proportionality is 9 into 10 raised to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Okay, here the charges are placed in free space, like in air. These charges are placed in air. But if the charges are placed in some other medium, some other insulating medium like water, mica, etc., then the force will change. The force will not remain the same. Charges placed in air, okay, for a particular Q1, Q2 and a distance r, this is the expression. But if the same charges placed at the same distance in some other medium, then the value of the force changes. Why? Because now the force will become 1 upon 4 pi epsilon, the permittivity of the medium, how much that medium is permitting the electric lines of forces. So what comes here? Epsilon naught means it is the permittivity of free space. Free space means air or vacuum. If it is placed in some other medium, then what it will be? It will be permittivity of that medium. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon Q1 into Q2 upon r square, where this epsilon is called as the permittivity of that medium. Okay, in whichever medium The charges are placed, that will be the permittivity of that medium. That is how many electric lines of forces that medium is permitting. Okay, now this epsilon. This epsilon is equal to K into epsilon naught in whichever medium it is placed. There is a particular constant value of that medium which is called as the dielectric constant. So this can be written as 1 upon 4 pi K into epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square. What is this? K. Here we have written epsilon as K into epsilon naught. When the charges are placed in a medium, then it will be the permittivity of the medium, and that permittivity of the medium can be written as K into epsilon naught. What is this K called over here? K is called as the constant of that medium, which we call it as the dielectric constant. It is called as dielectric constant. That is, the permittivity of medium is related to permittivity of free space by the relation K into epsilon naught, and K here is called as the dielectric constant. For that medium, there is a particular constant value. For example, if the charges are placed in water, then the value of K is 80. Okay, the value of K will be 80. So tell me, the force will increase or decrease? Same Q1, Q2 placed at the same distance, first placed in air, then placed in water. Force increases or decreases?
Decreases.
Decreases? Yes, it decreases. Why? Because K, some positive value, like if for water, as I said, its value is 80. So how many times the force will decrease? 80 times 1 by 80 it will become. Okay, so write down, this is the permittivity of the medium, which is related to epsilon naught. By this relation, epsilon is equal to K into K epsilon naught. Okay, from here K is equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught. Now we'll discuss something about dielectric constant. From this formula, what is this dielectric constant equal to? Epsilon upon epsilon naught. What is this epsilon? Permittivity of the medium. Epsilon naught is permittivity of the free space. Permittivity of a medium to permittivity of free space. It can also be called as relative permittivity. Like last year you have studied about relative density. When does it come? Density of the substance to density of some standard substance, like density of water. The same way, permittivity of the medium to permittivity of free space. What do we call it? This we also call it as the relative permittivity. So dielectric constant is nothing. It is the relative permittivity. This is what? This is relative permittivity. So the dielectric constant is the relative permittivity. Written? Okay, dielectric constant is nothing but it is the relative permittivity. Why? Because this dielectric constant is permittivity of the medium to the permittivity of free space, which can also be called as the relative permittivity. So this is the relative permittivity. Okay, now let's come back to this epsilon naught. What is the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught? Can you calculate the value of epsilon naught? What will be the value of epsilon naught? Yes. Epsilon naught from here will be equal to 1 upon 4 pi into 9 into 10 raised power 9. Is it so? When you calculate it, this comes out to be 8.854 into 10 raised to the power minus 12. Okay, you can calculate by the calculator. It comes out to be 8.854 into 10 raised to the power minus 12. What will be its unit? What will be the unit of epsilon naught? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught has got a unit, Newton meter square per coulomb square. So what will be the unit of epsilon naught?
Coulomb square
Coulomb
upon
square.
Newton meter square.
Yes, good. Meter raised to the power minus 2 coulomb square. What will be the unit of dielectric constant? Relative permittivity? No unit.
Unitless.
Yes. Whenever this word relative comes, it means no unit. Why? Because it is the ratio of the similar quantities. And same units, both have got the same units. So this K has got no unit. Dielectric constant or the relative permittivity has no unit. And also we have seen that when the charges are placed in a medium, the force between them decreases. In air, it is maximum for particular Q1, Q2 and R. The force in air or in vacuum will be more, whereas the force in medium will decrease. Q divided by KR and K का value कोई positive value है, so the force decreases. So whenever the charges are placed in a medium, the force decreases. Clear? Written, everyone? Okay, now we'll write this Coulomb's law in vector form. Vector form means force is a vector. What are we finding? What is Coulomb's law? F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square when the charges are placed in air or in vacuum in free space. Force is a vector quantity, and we have already discussed that the force is acting along the line joining the two charges. It's acting along the line joining the two charges. Okay, so the force has a direction which is along the line joining the two charges. Now, whether it is towards one of the charge or away from the charge, let's discuss about it. So write down Coulomb's law in vector form. Coulomb's law in vector form. That is, we'll write the force in vector. Okay, Coulomb's law in vector form. Okay, let there are two charges Q1 and Q2, which are like charges. Like charges means they are repelling each other. So the second charge will exert a force on Q1. In which direction? This is the force on the first charge, which is due to the second. So what can we write down? F12 vector. Okay, the second charge is repelling the first charge. In the case if Q1 and Q2 are like charges, similar charges, that is both are positive or both are negative. So Q2 will exert a force on the first charge, or you may say that this is the force on the first charge due to the second charge. How can we write down? F12. Now similarly, the first charge is also exerting a force on the second charge. So this is the force on the second charge due to the first charge. So the first charge is also repelling the second charge. So the force on the second charge due to the first one is as written. Okay, now let's write down in the vector form. That is, we'll write down F12 vector. What is the magnitude of this force? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square. This is the magnitude. Okay, now only the direction of this F12 has to be mentioned. Okay, and any vector which gives only the direction of a given vector, what do we call it? Unit vector. Last year we have studied. Unit vector is a vector which has got magnitude unity and it shows only the direction of a given vector. Now let us consider that R12 unit vector. R12 is a unit vector, that is its magnitude is unity, and it is only showing the direction from the first charge to the second charge. It's only giving the direction from the first charge to the second charge. Now tell me, what should we write over here? F12 vector is opposite to it. So what can we write down? R21 unit vector. R12 unit vector, we have assumed that it is from the first charge to the second charge. Now what will be this direction? This direction is opposite to R12 vector. So what can we write down? R21 unit vector. The same way, F21 vector, force on the second charge due to the first charge. Magnitude is the same, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square. What is this direction? R12 unit vector. This direction is from first to the second charge, that is R12 unit vector. Okay, now we know that R12 unit vector is minus of R21 unit vector. Already studied in class 11. Both are unit vectors, but in the opposite direction. So this vector is negative of the other one. Okay, if R12 is negative of R21, so we can write down that F12 vector is minus of F21 vector. That is, what does it mean? That is, they are obeying the Newton's third law. Which law is this? Newton's third law. That is, Coulomb's law obeys Newton's third law. So write down, hence Coulomb's law obeys Newton's third law. Hence Coulomb's law obeys Newton's. Okay, so here I have written F12 vector is equal to minus F21 vector. Why? Because R12 is minus R21 unit vector. So F12 is minus F21 vector. That is, it obeys Coulomb's law, obeys Newton's third law. Okay, if the force between them is attractive, that is, both are unlike charges. One is positive and let Q2 is negative. Then these two will be attracting each other. What will be the direction of F12? It will be attracting the second charge. What will be the direction of F21? This will be attracting. So if the charges are unlike, these will be the directions of the forces. If the charges are like, this will be the direction of the forces. Okay, one more thing to understand here. Okay, so in vector form, the force vector, whether it is force on the first charge due to the second or the second due to the first, it is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square into R some unit vector. It may be R12 unit vector or R21 unit vector depending upon the nature of the charges. Okay, now last year we studied that unit vector is vector divided by its magnitude. Do you still remember it? Last year in the chapter of vectors, fourth chapter, we have studied that unit vector is vector divided by its magnitude. So if we write vector, substitute this unit vector as vector upon the magnitude. What do you get? Now the force vector will be equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2. If you write it here, vector upon magnitude. R square is already there. One more magnitude means it will be R cube. What it will be? R cube. So vector sign, denominator will be cube. Unit vector, denominator will be R square. Is it clear? Okay, so now we'll continue tomorrow. Okay, these students, you can leave. I have already taken your attendance.